Hansford, good morning.
Good morning, John. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, it's been,
So Zoom is a wonderful thing these days.
it really is. Kind of brings me back to being in North Carolina. We used to grab coffee all the time, but I guess we're doing virtual coffee today, right?
That's right. That's right. But it's great. It's great to have you join me. I appreciate you doing this. So Hansford, this is Hansford Johnson. Hansford is he's currently the director of enterprise diverse talent sourcing and engagement strategies for travelers. And I'm going to give him a chance just in just a moment to tell you about a little more about his career journey. But Hansford and I have known each other for 6, 7 years, maybe more.
I think
Um,
yeah,
Back to we were both at Wake Forest University.
that's right.
Um, Hansford with the business school, and when I was with the law school. So that's when we first got to know each other and found some common ground pretty quickly in just personal career development and sports and many fronts. So
That is true.
so great to have you join me. So
Yeah,
I've told Hansford, as I've mentioned to you, we're now doing some of the virtual sessions for the personal development program
yeah,
that I've mentioned to you that we're doing here in our area back in North Carolina.
yeah, yeah.
Before we get into this, I want to I want everybody to just get to know you a little bit. Just if you would share just a little bit about you and
Yeah.
your career and your family, where you are these days.
Yeah, no, first and foremost, thanks for the opportunity. I think for those who are listening, I commend you all because I know when I was in high school, you couldn't catch me on one of these things. My mind was just not mature enough to focus on my personal and professional development. But obviously, as I'm older now, I recognize, and having kids too, how critical it is. So for those of you who are listening, I commend you. You don't understand the investment that you're making in your life, short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. So, but yeah, as John said, I'm Hansford Johnson. We've been knowing each other for between 6 to 8 years. As you get older, everything gets a little
That's
fuzzy.
right.
But yeah, I work at Travelers. My role is in human resources, and I'm responsible for enterprise, our entire organization around diversity, talent, and engagement strategy. So, really, what it is to sum it up is how do we take the mix of people from different backgrounds who bring different skill sets, to the table? How do we maximize that to be a better company and value the differences that people bring to the table? So, again, love what I do, but my career journey. Like some of you, when I was in high school, I wasn't thinking about, really about what I wanted to do. I just wanted to make a lot of money, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Played sports and
Oh,
had an opportunity to go play college football at Middle Tennessee State University. Was there for 4 years and, really majored in football. But I had to get a degree, and I got a degree in finance because my mindset coming from a single family home was I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to make sure my mom was taken care of, my family were taken care of, and I was going to just use this skill set to make it happen. But as I got a little bit older in football, thank God I never got hurt. Was getting to that point where, I can't do this forever. I had to think, finance is great, but I wanted to do something that really made a difference in people's life. Because when I thought about it, again, you grow in college. I thought about, my life has to mean something. I have to make a difference in this world. And while it's great being a banker, investment banker, anything like that, I knew the most valuable asset in the world were human beings, not money, not gold, not oil, whatever you want to call it, but human beings. And if I could truly, truly understand what is it that motivates people, drive people, help people grow, I could make, the world around us a better place. Sounds really, cheesy, but the reality is I really wanted to make a difference, so I went and studied anthropology after my finance degree, which is the study of people, culture, norms, studied everything from religion to everything just to understand about people. And I went into higher education. I thought that is the equal common ground. If you want to help people to realize, what they're created to do, give them education, give them a lot of money, and they don't know how to use it, they'll end up broke, just like most people who are millionaires. But education to me was that equalizer. So went into that quickly, just kind of landed the plane, did that for about 10 years, and that's where I met John at Wake Forest University. But before that, I was at University of South Florida. I spent some years there at Wake Forest University. Then I went to Yale University, and all my roles were focused on the student side. So running the admissions, student affairs, the career center. So everything similar to what we're talking about today. Had a great time. But I transitioned from that into corporate America, because over the 10 years, what I learned was just understanding young people, Gen X, Gen Z, what they're looking for, and really what the market is wanting. And that was my level of expertise. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but just kind of master my craft, follow what I was passionate about, more importantly, what I was skilled at, and was able to, let those two things combine into a career. So I love what I do.
It's great. It's always nice when you love what you do and things align like you want them to. Sometimes it takes us a little while to get to that point, but
You're right.
it sounds like you're at a great place. And you mentioned something there that I want us to hopefully come back to is passion, what you're passionate about. So
Absolutely.
you and I were talking. We've stayed in touch over the years, and I'm so grateful that we have when you moved to Connecticut and now in Texas.
Yeah.
But we were speaking recently by phone, and you mentioned to me something that just really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
That was I guess what we'll call three buckets.
Yeah.
You'll explain it much better than me.
Yeah.
But three things that you do, we all do, no
Right.
matter what phase of life we're in, what age we are, what we do for work,
Yep.
whether we're a student, whether we're a parent, working adult, no matter where you are in
Yeah.
life, you're doing one of these three things. And I'm going to let you elaborate on these things. But when you
Yeah.
mentioned this to me, and when you guys actually, I think, implement it and instill it in your family every day,
Right.
I'll let you mention that. But it just showed, it really stuck with me because what you do in these areas
Yeah.
really depends on your growth and your development. We share with us about this, I'll call three everyday buckets.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. No, you're right. I mean, I think, as you get older, you have children, you grow, you start to think, as a parent, like what is your responsibility? And that's to kind of help your children discover what we call, their genius, like their giftedness, like what they're good at.
Right.
Number one, what they're passionate about, what I think they're, what they feel like they're put here to do, and then what they're really good at, and the common denominator, and they're all different. I have 4 kids, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know where these kids come from because they're nothing like me nor my wife.
Right.
But the
Right.
reality is the common denominator is that they're all human beings, right? And human beings, there's many things that we have in common, but one of the things is that it's about growth, right? Growth is a byproduct of life. I mean, if you're living, you're growing, and I learned this early on, in playing sports. I had the opportunity to have great coaches and good mentors, and they told me that, you're either getting worse or you're getting better. You're never the same every day. So it's all about growth. And I'll talk about it real quick, just those three buckets that we talk about that you have to kind of pay attention to. The key thing with this, and we tell our children, is that, like I said, growth is a byproduct of life, and just biologically, there's nothing you can really do about it. You sit here and we have these markers, and our kids see them grow, and and you don't do anything. You just lay down, you go to sleep, you eat, and
Right.
you just grow. Right, but 80% of your growth, is determined by genetics. Like you can't do anything about that. Look, I'm 5'8", my wife is 5'4". My kids are probably not going to be 6'2", So I'm sorry, that's what I gave them. But the other 20% is really determined by, what are in your control. So we try to, obviously speak from that and kind of tell our kids the same exact thing. Like every single decision you make in life, you're some product of that. Right. I believe that as human beings, I mean, everybody, even who's listening to this, you're created for greatness, to do something great. Greatness might not be being the next president of the United States or Nobel Peace Prize, winner, something like that. But great can be just being a phenomenal father or mother, or being a good friend, or just using, like I said, your genius to make the world around you a better place. The interesting thing is that, our greatness and who we are is really brought out, through the community in which we live and the decisions that we make every single day. So these three buckets I'm just going to, quickly share are really critical and important. Again, remember I told you 80%, of natural biological growth is out of your control. The other 20%
Right.
you control. With this particular, what I'm going to share with you, these three buckets, it's the same thing. You have to engage life or life is going to engage you. You just can't sit back. If you want to do something, you can't just sit there and kind of wish it and hope it to happen. You have to be actively engaged with your life, right? It's really important. Again, you are a sum product, right? 3 plus 3, 6, whatever. You're a sum product of every single decision you make in life. So those 3 buckets real quick. The first one is consuming, right? Consuming. We live in a consumer generation. I get it.
Absolutely.
Society where everybody is, watching this and doing that. The thing about consuming is that there's no, if you read and study, consumption, like watching TV or playing video games. And look, I love video games, but the reality is, if you pay attention to the brain, there's no brain activity happening. Really, if you study it, it shows that when you watch too much TV, you consume too much. It really, it enables your ability to like critically think and analyze things, which happens on the right side of your brain. This is significant, right? Because, all day you're spending time really analyzing information. So you have to be mindful of what you're doing, just sitting down and letting things just kind of come to you. So that's one bucket, is consuming. Can't stay in that bucket. The second bucket is cultivating, right? And cultivating is you're doing something, but you're doing something for a purpose and intent and a reason, right? To acquire and to develop, kind of like mastering your craft, right? Because again, I think everybody who's listening to this wants to do something. You want to do something great. You have an idea in your mind. All the businesses and all the inventions you see around you started out as an idea, right? That idea, that thought became an action, right? That action became a habit that you did every single day, and it kind of hardwired, and that habit became a lifestyle. And that lifestyle turned into something that made the world around us a better place, like Walmart, like whatever company you want to talk about. But all those things started as a thought, cultivating, an idea. So you're either consuming every day, which we look at it, we tell our kids is, don't let life just engage you and happen to you. There's no brain activity happening there. There's nothing wrong with consuming information, but are you cultivating something while you're consuming that information, right? And the last piece is creating, which too is a verb, right? It's the cause to happen as a result of one's action, bringing something into existence. As human beings, we're such creative people, man. And I don't mean in the sense of like creative, like art and things. Like, I'm not the most artistic person in the world.
Same. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Same here.
Right. But I believe I have a level of creativity, right? There's something inside, there's some invention inside of me. I have kids every day. There's greatness kind of in you. And my job as a parent is to kind of pull that out of you. So I want to make sure you're spending as much time as you possibly can each day cultivating and creating. We're going to try to minimize this consuming, right? I tell them all the time too, and just kind of land the plane here. You only have 168 hours in a week. That's it. Do your math, how much you sleep. If you sleep 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's 42 hours. You do the math, that's 124 hours you have left. Break your days down, and how much time are you really spending cultivating, creating? What is it you want to do? I'm 39 now. When I was young, I had a lot of energy. Not that I don't now, but my time is very, very precious. I tell people all the time, again, I said this earlier, it's short-term sacrifices for long-term gain. When you're young, take as much time as you possibly can, to focus on the things that you feel you're passionate about, you're really good at, and I'm sure we're going to get into that. So it's either consuming, right? No brain activity, things happening here, life kind of engaging you and you not engaging it. It's cultivating, which is engaging, consuming with an intent and a purpose, right? To learn something new. And then it's creating, right? It's reacting or acting to something to bring something into existence. Spend time in the last 2 buckets.
I love that, and it's so true, and there's just so much with that. And we spend a couple hours. We're not going to, but we could spend hours on that, right? So when I hear you explain that, describe that, a lot of that to me, I think of as it's a mindset, an attitude.
Absolutely.
And being proactive. I love what you said about not just letting life come to you, but you going to it. And it is so true. They're adjectives, and it makes me think of as we're going through this time that we're just is new and challenging to everyone throughout the world. It makes me think of, when you said that, an idea, being creative. It makes me think of, like, who are those there's individuals out there right today, this moment, creating, developing, innovating.
Right.
that will change the world for years to come. During
100%.
this period, particularly during a period where we have time to reflect,
Yeah.
time to be still, more time to be present.
Yeah.
But it's also, what do we do with that?
That's
That
right.
can be a positive or a negative, right?
That's
When we
true.
have so much time, it can
Yeah.
be a positive or it can be a detriment, or
Yeah.
it could be a benefit.
That's right.
You're either positively influencing or negatively influencing
Yeah.
yourself and the people around you,
You're
right?
100% you're 100% correct. I mean, it's times like this, that again, invention and things come out. I mean, every time, whether it's our country or, any time in history, when there's moments like this, you know, um, inventions, ways to do things differently are birth, in life, and there's people now, look, we're on Zoom right now. You think Zoom is not benefiting from the fact that everybody is sheltered in place?
That's
Can
right.
you imagine the amount of meetings that are taking place right now? But think about if we didn't have this capability. As human beings, I believe we're created for community and to interact with people. Even as yes, as much as we need to pay attention to the safeness and the health of other people by sheltering in place and social distancing, but we can physically distance, but I don't think it's very difficult to socially distance, from people. But you're
Right.
100% correct. It's moments like this when you're able to just really introspect that creativity begins to happen. But think about that. If it's not, even when things get back to normal, I hope, what those of you who are listening, and even myself, I tell myself that the habits that I'm gaining, now, because I can't go anywhere, so I have a lot of time to think.
Right.
I continue to do that. And just remember this, for those of you who listen, I know you've heard this quote before. People say that knowledge is power, but I like to say and take it one step further, that knowledge is power only in the hands of those who have the ability to think,
Mm.
right? And beyond just thinking, understanding. There's a difference between knowledge and understanding. Knowledge is just, knowing things. Understanding is a practical application of what you actually know, right? And that is
Right.
critical. For there's two ways to learn in life: it's through wisdom or through experience. I
Right.
prefer to learn through wisdom.
Right.
So the reality is, young people who are listening, just take the opportunity you have now. Take a pen and paper. I tell my kids to do this. I try this every single day, and just introspect. Just think about your thoughts and begin to write things. I know you guys
Absolutely.
have heard Washington Carver. I mean, 500 different inventions with the peanut. Are you serious?
Ah,
But that
that's right.
started with thinking
Amazing. Yeah.
paper, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, so I want to spend just a couple more minutes on this because
Yeah,
there's so much here. I also want to gotta get to our lightning round questions
yeah,
with you. But so people that are listening to us today and hearing this, particularly high school students,
yeah.
we're working with we're bringing in, as we've said, and I've mentioned to you, 5, 6 professionals from different
Hmm.
various career fields, spending time with high school students around that central theme of what would I tell my high school age self.
Right.
When they're hearing this and they're in high school and they're
Hmm.
thinking that sounds great, it makes sense. Where do I begin?
Yeah.
What's the first step? What would you say to the students, and like how do I start that? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally understand. I tell people it's called like an inside out approach. And what I mean by that, it's, when you're young, and I remember when I was in high school, I mean, and not that you all need to study psychosocial development, but just understanding where human beings are, like they're learning, there's
right,
different phases of that. And between the age of 13 and 17, your greatest influencers are external. They're your friends, they're your people who are around you. It's, again, what you consume is going to influence you greatly. So I tell people, it's, for you all that are listening, it's an inside out approach. Spend a lot more time figuring out yourself. You're going to live with yourself the rest of your life. Your friends that are around you, great friends, but I have phenomenal friends that I grew up with. And yeah, I've moved. I've lived in 9 states. Not because I'm in some witness to protection program, but just from a career and different things like that. We
sure,
still connect, because of things like this, like social media and whatnot. The one thing I can advise you all, and I wish I would have did it more when I was young, is this inside out approach. Spend a lot more time understanding you, understanding you, who you are, your thoughts. You're uniquely made. There's no one on this earth exactly like you. We have different, yes, overlaps in our personality and whatnot. Um, but spend a lot of time, really thinking about, who you are and why you do what you do, the way you are, right? It's just like studying a subject. Study you. Don't worry so much about what's out there and what people say. And you're made just the way you are. You can't change that. Look, I played football. In football, you would think I'm supposed to be 6'5" and 300 pounds. I'm 5'8". And at the most, I weighed 175. But I was confident in what I could do. I could run. I
Right.
could run you.
Right.
So I focused on who I was as a person and what I can contribute with what I have. That's all I can give you. And I'm satisfied with that. So where you can start is not, yes, it's great to have mentors and people you admire to be like them. And that's maybe for another conversation. But you first have to understand who you are as a person. Motivation is great and people can motivate you. But what is your genius? What do you bring to the table? It's unique. And if you don't spend time really searching and trying to understand what that is, I think you're robbing the world of your uniqueness and your greatness. So spend time doing that.
Oh, it's great. And so true. I mean, one, you have to spend the time doing it, spend the
Hmm.
time asking yourself, why am I here? Because we think about a lot of the what and the how. What am I going
Yeah.
to do? How am I going to do it? But not so much on the why. Why am I here? Why was I put on this earth?
Yep.
What is that? What's my purpose? And then
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with people that help bring that out. You
Right.
may not see things in yourself, but others will. But it
That's right.
does come back, right? It comes back to you, and you've got
Mhm.
to trust yourself. Trust your instinct, what's
That's right.
inside, and go with that.
Yep. You're
Right.
spot on, John. You're spot
Right.
on. That's what it's all about. If you want to call it this mystery of life, whatever it may be, your path, you're going to learn through, things like that, figuring out, who you are, where you come from, understand more about your history, things
Right.
like that, your personality, right?
Yeah.
I'll say this last thing too. There's IQ and there's EQ, right? Intellectual quotient, like how smart you are, not really how smart, your ability, to think or whatnot. It's innate. It can't
Right.
change.
Right.
You know, blame your parents. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
You are what you are, and you can't do anything about that, but you can optimize it in the sense of, how much of it are you really using, through learning and like you would like a good athlete, you have to work it out. But the one thing you can grow in that I think needs to be taught a little bit more is what you call your emotional intelligence, your EQ. We don't have enough time to go into that today, but while you're listening to this, you want something to read, while you're sheltered in place, go study, emotional intelligence. And then there's books on like figuring out your why. But your emotional intelligence has 4 different quadrants. A lot of it is what John and I are talking about. How do you develop those things? How do you understand who you are, the world around you? How do you self-control? How do you manage people? You're going to be doing those things for the rest of your life. The better you get at that, the more you're going to have the ability to give the world, your genius.
Right. Right. Finding that out and then doing it, practicing it.
Yep.
I know you're a Florida Gator, right?
Yeah.
But but
Yeah.
I but I did, something that Coach Saban at
Yeah.
University
Oh,
of Alabama
ah,
has been, it's well documented. He said, a lot of people will say, we're going to practice until we get it right. And he
yeah.
says, well, that's not the approach we take. We're going to
Yep.
practice until we can't get it wrong.
That's right.
And such good advice there. So
That's
so
excellent
yeah,
advice.
finding out the why and then put it into, but then the repetition of that and doing it the right way.
That's
So
right.
we've got some quick questions for you
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Are you ready for these?
Yeah. Let me buckle my seat. Make sure I can.
Okay. All right. So what's the best advice you've received
Mm,
that made a turning point? This can be personal advice, career advice
Yep.
that
Yep.
made a turning point in your life or career that
Yeah.
resonated so much you want to share it with
Yeah,
everyone.
I'll be quick with this one. I was 29 years old. I was actually at Wake Forest University. My mentor, Steve Reineman, we're sitting down. I think people hit 30 years old, they're thinking like, yeah, I'm not cool anymore. Like I'm no more in the 20s and 30s. He was like, Hansford, you're
Yeah.
just starting to live.
Yes.
He said, "Hansford, let me give you this framework, and I'll tell you real quick." He said,
Sure.
in your 20s, get as much life experience as you possibly can. Colleges, university, the world will tell you you need to know exactly what you need to do. Good luck. You're not going to figure that out. You just won't. He said, in your 20s, get as much as life experience you possibly can. You're going to learn more about what you don't want to do than what you want to do. But it's with the
Mm.
purpose, not just out there just, jacking around, but whether it's jobs, and we can talk about another time, get as much life experience as you possibly can. You'll learn more in those 10 years than you did your first 20 years of life.
Mm.
He said in your 30s, by that point, you know what you're passionate about because you have all this life experiences. You know what you don't want to do and what you're really good at. Find what that is and begin to master your craft in your 30s, right? And
Yes.
we can talk about that another time. He said in
Yes.
your 40s, you monetize that as much as you possibly can because the world we live in now, money is just a tool that helps and buys you time to do other things. You give it away, you use it for experiences, but your ability to transition what you're really, really good at into compensation is going to be critical for you. And then he said in your 50s, we didn't go past that, begin to wind down because and enjoy the fruits of your labor, but work hard, study, master your craft when you can. When you're young, you have the energy to do it. Give
Yes.
the world your genius. And that revolutionized my career. I'm 39, so I'm
Yes.
I'm getting
Yeah.
to another phase here. So
No, I love that. That's great, great advice. What would you tell? Two things, just two.
yep, yep,
What two things would you tell your high school age self?
yeah. Focus on you, meaning not selfishness, but understand who you are, like I expressed here, so you can better understand, what you bring and what you give to the world, or else you just spend a whole bunch of your time trying to be like other people. That, and I would tell myself that, it's more important, you know, um, what you do to impact others than what it is to impact, meaning, you know, being the spotlight per se. So those are two major things I would tell myself that I've learned now if I could speak to my high school self.
Yeah. Oh, great. One interview question you always ask during the hiring process, and why this question is so important. Just what's one?
Yeah. It's always, tell me, what is it that motivates you? What drives you to be who you are? I love that question. You see people just light up because they're like, oh, no more trick questions. Right? They can talk about themselves all day long. And I want to see that because the true you comes out when you start talking about what is that motivate you? Is it your parents? Is it, I don't know, whatever, but whatever they say, it begins to connect us as human beings. They're not just these, not so much trick questions, but questions I'm asking. So
Yes.
that's a question I always ask.
Yeah. Great. Great. Biggest pet peeve, we all have them, right? Biggest pet peeve when it comes to in-person, there's not as much of it these days. We're doing more things virtually, but biggest pet peeve when it comes to in-person communication, and verbal or nonverbal.
Yeah, my biggest pet peeve is just be present.
Mm.
Make people feel like they're there. They're not like invisible. If you're gonna be with somebody in person in a conversation, put your darn phone down. It's
Yeah,
not that important. I mean,
that's right.
nothing is that important. Make people feel like they're the most important person in the world. Give me 5 minutes. So, be present, and you'll be amazed how everything else kind of falls into place. Eye contact, I can talk about all of that, but just be present in the moment.
Uh, so true. And I heard something a while back, and we've shared this with the high school students during our
Mhm.
sessions. Is being fully present is the greatest gift you can give someone.
That's
Not
true.
being fully present is really the greatest disservice you can do to them.
100% agree. Fully agree with you.
So, two most important things you would encourage students to remember as they are deciding on the career path they want to pursue. Two,
Yeah.
two things.
Two quick things: passion, skill. Right? Two different things. Understand what your passion is, what you love to do, what drives you, what motivates you to help you wake up every single day, because that can be turned into actual work. Um, and then skill. Understand that skill is like mastering your craft. You can love something and not be good at it. You know,
Right, right.
you have to develop both those things. Understand
Yes.
what that is, but put the time and energy in here. Hard work will always uh, supersede talent. It just does. Work hard, put in the time to do it.
Yeah. very, very, so good. Which three individuals, any three in history, so this deceased or living, would you choose to have dinner with?
Whew, to have dinner with. If I go all the way back, the number one, if you go all the way back, honestly, would be Jesus Christ, because there's just so much controversy around that life, that has influenced, so many people. You talk about what people believe. I mean, it's the biggest faith religion, in the world. I would love to have that conversation, and and have
Yeah,
dinner.
right.
That's one. The second one, I would love to have, dinner with Jackie Robinson.
Mm,
Uh, I just think it was a very interesting time, the integration of sports, and he was a phenomenal man. And beyond just the sports and playing all sports, I mean, the politics, the social corporate responsibility.
mm,
I would love to have a conversation. How did he persevere, through that, which was
absolutely.
incredible.
Yeah,
And then the last one would probably be Nelson Mandela. Just perseverance. It baffles me how people are able to get through things. And myself, I'm like, I don't think I would be able to do that. Not
yes.
in for that long, and then come back and be the president of my country and forgive and things like that. So those are three people I would love to meet.
With some great conversations at that table, huh?
Yeah, I would be done. Yeah.
So, okay, so real quick, we just got a minute or two, so I'm gonna get these in. Favorite
Yep.
athlete, musician, actor, or business person you most admired during your teenage years, and why?
Kobe Bryant. Right? It's just that Mamba mentality. I was a huge Michael Jordan fan, but when I saw Kobe do it the way he did it, and that was I guess the very impressionable time of my, growing up. Love Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
Everything about him on the field, and then watch him just again now older now how he's transitioned that into off the field. Although obviously he's not here no more, but to make that transition, totally cut it off, and have the same mentality towards his children, and then the
right.
creativity was phenomenal to me.
Yeah, very, very impressive.
Mm.
Profession or career path you would have chosen if you hadn't chosen the one you did, and why?
Yeah, I would have been a lawyer or a politician, to be honest with you. Is what I wanted to do. I feel like, there's a lot of people in the world that don't have a voice, and when you have the platform to be able to do that and make change, do it. I really wanted to do that, so I told my kids, one of you will be a lawyer or a politician. So I was getting them prepared. Got
That's
to
pretty
make sure.
clear. That's a pretty clear directive, huh?
Oh yeah, they know. If not, then I'm just gonna disown you. No, I'm just joking.
So, okay, last one. One
Yep.
book or podcast, could be a podcast. One book or podcast you'd recommend for personal or professional development.
Oh man. I would say it would be Malcolm Gladwell. Um, just anything by Malcolm Gladwell. I mean, he's such a brilliant, writer, journalist, and talks about so many things, that are relevant, to life here. So I think a book by him, whether it's David and Goliath, Blink. There's so many books, that he had, and he has a podcast as well too. So he's pretty good. Another one you said one, but Simon Sinek is the new,
Oh yes, yes.
book on why leaders eat last, or understanding and discovering your why, things like that. So I would highly recommend those two.
Right, right. Great. I wish we had like 2 or 3 more hours, but this has been terrific. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing just a lot of wisdom. And we've got a couple of things we can come back to, or several that we hit on there.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Hansford. Have a
Thank you,
great
John.
day.
You too. Thank you.